This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's a bright blue clear sky, which means that the heat is raining down on this spring afternoon. This is Safari Live. Good afternoon everybody, and welcome to our sunset safari on this very warm afternoon. My name is Tristan, and on camera today I have got Sebastian, and it is a live safari coming to you from the northeastern corner of South Africa, which means that you can talk to us via Twitter on #SafariLive or on the YouTube chat should you want to ask any questions or just say hello from wherever you are watching. Now, this afternoon, since it is such a warm afternoon, I'm going to try and see if we can't go exploring some of the water holes, see if we can't find, well, can find should I say, some elephants that are down at the water holes drinking. I feel like an elephant fix is needed. We've had a great few drives with cats, so it's going to be all about the elephants to start. Once it gets a little bit cooler, we will be having a school drive later. We shall try and go and see what is happening with our friend Hosanna, or we'll be heading to the Angama Pride and the Birmingham Mail. They haven't quite decided which one we'll go to just yet. I'd imagine though at this point of the day, being as hot as it is, both of those lot will be sleeping and taking it as easy as possible. It really is a lot warmer than it was this morning, and if Hosanna was warm this morning and the lions were warm this morning, by now they are going to be positively dying of heat. So I'm sure they're all tucked up in the shade, so we're going to give them a break for the first part of the afternoon, and then we're going to try and see if we can't find some of our larger herbivores that could potentially be at the waterholes. Now I want to check Treehouse Dam, not only because of elephants, but on our way home this morning, as we finished up with Hosanna, we left him and we came across a hippo that was wandering about in the morning sunshine and making its way straight towards Treehouse Dam. So I want to go see if Scuba Steve, as we've nicknamed him because he doesn't really like to show his face, if he's around, and see if he's maybe going to pop his head out, and if we're lucky, we might get the terrapin hippo combo that we've had before. Hey Seb, that will be quite nice, wouldn't it? So we're going to try and see if we can do that. Of course, before I go there, Seb is ever busy with his time lapse, so I'm heading down towards quarantine so that he can get his pictures for his time lapse. Those are going to be really quite wonderful when Seb's finished with them, because they're going to basically span the whole dry season, and we're going to see how Treehouse Dam has gone down, as well as quarantine, how the grass has faded, and then hopefully with the rains, that rejuvenation process that's going to happen. So those should be quite spectacular when they're done, I reckon. Seb, what do you reckon? You previewed them the other day, didn't you?
Yeah, it looks looking good already.
So Seb previewed them the other day and he says they're looking good, which is always good news. Seb has had a master stroke of an idea. I think him and Ferg cooked this one up, didn't you? You got two of you. And Craig, yes, Batman. Can't forget about Batman, the silent partner, as one would say. I actually spoke to Batman yesterday, which is a revelation, because Batman doesn't really talk very much. So, Darlene, you say you're quite amazed as how quickly it's transitioning from winter to summer at the moment. Well, Darlene, the temperature, yes, it's in a bit of a shock. It almost seems as though we've lost our winter months, and we've gone straight through spring in about 24 hours, and now we're into summer. So it really has been quite a quick turnaround in temperature wise. But in terms of the actual bush yet, it hasn't really shifted into that summer gear. We don't have any of the insects, we haven't got too many of the migratory birds back yet, and we don't have any of the lush green vegetation. You can see where Seb is now, the grass is still short, it's brown, it's not exactly like it's going to be in summer. In summer, by the end of summer, in April, March, April, this will be a lush green field. There will be leaves all over the marulas in the distance, and it really is going to be quite wonderful to see. So we should have a spectacular change from this brown, drab, dreary sort of color that we've got at the moment to bright, beautiful colors with birds and flowers and all of those kind of things. So it's going to be a spectacular way to kind of see the changes in a short little space of time. When you run through these photos as quickly as they do when they make a video, it really is quite amazing to see how it actually looks when it's done. So there we go, Seb is done. It's as quick as that. Well done, Sebastian. Looking very dapper this afternoon, Sebastian. Did you... very dapper, which means you're looking well dressed and ready for a safari. Are you hot?
That's why, yeah.
Seb said to me that the best place that he was today was in the shower before he came on game drive. Did you have a cold shower, Seb?
Yeah.
So Seb had a proper cold shower apparently, which is what is needed on a day like today. I'm sure the swimming pool at Inga's is soon going to be used indeed. It's amazing though how quickly it went warmer. The strange thing for me is the mornings. Now, normally when we go from winter to summer, we'll find that during the day the temperatures are still quite warm in the winter months, and it slowly, gradually gets warmer. But the mornings generally stay quite cold in the sort of transition from winter to summer, and only when you really get into the summer months do those winters get warm. But this morning, I was, like I say, in a t-shirt. I had a small vest on, but other than that it was pretty much t-shirt weather and shorts weather. And when I went on leave 10 days ago, it was most certainly nowhere near that. I had long pants, 3 jackets on, and I was dying of cold. I had gloves, the whole works. And this morning that notion did not cross my mind at all. In fact, even before drive this morning, I had to second guess myself on having tea rather than a cup of cold water. So I still did the tea though, just because I thought, well, old habits die hard, but soon it will be gone with tea and we'll be into water to start the day. Of course, I'm not a coffee man. Seb, you're a tea man as well, aren't you? Or you coffee?
No, tea.
Seb's a tea man as well. So he's another one of the tea bunnies that we have out here. What will be good in this weather is probably the birds. So we're going to probably find quite a few birds out and about. Nice clear skies, there's a bit of a breeze, so for the raptors they'll be able to use those thermals and will be circling about, and all the other birds will have nice bright conditions in which to forage around and seek out food. Now, Rusty's got this funny habit at the moment. We changed from Rusty to Wendy, in case you didn't notice. I mean, from Wendy to Rusty, in case you didn't notice. Rusty's being tested today because Rusty had a few gremlin issues, which we've scrubbed out of him and cleaned out, and we've given 4 new pumped hard tires onto Rusty at the moment, and he's got his spare wheel back, so Rusty's looking quite dapper, but he's got a little problem with the sticking accelerator. So at some points you put your foot down and the accelerator just doesn't go, and then all of a sudden you lurch forward, which is a little bit interesting at times. Hopefully that doesn't happen if we are in the midst of a dangerous situation like a charging elephant. We don't need a sticking accelerator, that's for sure. So I think Rusty might have to go and see Opa at some point. But I think the start of this drive is going to be about staying cool and finding shady areas. I think what we might do, Seb, let's do Ingwe Alley along this drainage and see if there's not any alleys there, and then we'll come around on Pangolin Track and see if there isn't any there, and then around towards Treehouse Dam a little bit later. So if the alleys aren't at water, they will be probably in these thicker drainage sections. So around, now we're coming in towards Philemon's Dip. These shady areas are the perfect place for an elephant to spend the afternoon munching away as they do. Right, hold on there, Seb. It's a bit of a rise as we go up here. So we're going to try and check, like I say, on Ingwe Alley, which means Leopard Alley, and I think actually Scott Dyson was the one that named this. But speaking of those in Kenya, I believe Steph is in his air-conned theatre and he's ready to entertain all of you.
Looking over the Mara River here in southern Kenya, my name is Steph Winterboer and I am manning a selection of static cameras on the banks of the world-famous Mara River, hoping to show you some sights and sounds, or maybe not so much sounds, but at least some sights from this fantastic river and the ecosystem surrounding it. Currently, I'd love to show you, well, I am showing you Dusty Crossing. And Dusty Crossing has risen in volume of water quite considerably over the last 24 hours. And the reason for that is that we've had a lot of rain here. In actual fact, last night was one of the biggest storms that we've had here in quite some time. And you can actually see how much the river is just flowing. The volume of water is just considerable. To give you an example, and for those of you who've watched the show for some time, you'll notice that a crocodile used to like lying in this area that is between this island. And now, where it was dry, now the water is just lapping and coming over the top. It must have risen a good couple of inches. And you can imagine, for a place like this, a good couple of inches means a lot of rain has fallen, especially since Kenya is in the grips of a bit of a drought and the ground is still very thirsty. The ground, or the water table at least, is still very low, very depressed compared to what it needs to be. And as you can see from that very black sky over there, that the rains have not finished yet. Totally against to what should be happening. I say what should be happening. I mean, Mother Nature knows exactly what she's doing, but this is supposed to be the dry season here in Kenya. Anywhere from about the end of May, June to about the beginning of November, December is considered the dry season without rain. We've had rain here every single day, which is fantastic, let me tell you. Our camp gets water from a little dam in a valley just next to us, and that dam drops by inches every day, and every day it gets filled up by inches again with the rain in the afternoon. Why don't we go and have a look at Main North Crossing if we can. If there was going to be a rapid that shows Willow Wanderer, I'll be with you in 1 second about the muddy water. Could we possibly go to Main North, please, Chantal? We've got a wildebeest carcass that is floating down there we go. That is a wildebeest carcass. There was a mass drowning here I'd say now, probably about a week ago now. These carcasses that are coming down are putrid. And we're seeing a bunch of carcasses moving down, especially when the water's high. And this is just one of those carcasses. I think that was washed up or stuck up on the bank somewhere and has now been left to go down the river again and feed a bunch of animals in pools where potentially there wasn't that much food over the last couple of weeks. So that's how food gets distributed up and down this river system. Sad to know that wildebeest probably drowned in a crossing. But to be honest with you, it helping the food chain in general quite considerably. Now, Willow Wanderer, you want to know the water looks quite brown? It absolutely does. And that is because there's a lot of runoff here at the moment. And the runoff, of course, means that it picks up little bits and pieces of silt and mud and etc. And as you can see, these rapids are churning at the moment. There's a big breeze blowing, and that is why the camera is shaking like it is. There's a storm busy blowing up into the Mara, and it is giving this camera a shakedown of note. Why don't we go and see what is happening at Main South, if that's okay? There we go. That is Main South. That is just a little bit downstream of where we've just watched that wildebeest carcass come down. And I'll give it a couple of seconds, and I'm sure we'll watch that wildebeest carcass come floating down here as well. I did notice that there were some vehicles parked on the edge of the bank, and that is always a good sign, that we quite often miss 180 degrees of action behind these cameras because we can't actually see behind us. And I'm sitting a few miles away. Let's see if we can see where I'm sitting on the escarpment in the background. Let me see. Let's go right over here and see if we can see. No, just hidden behind there. So that tall little bit, I'm sitting directly behind the tallest bit of that mountain, just to the right of your screen. In the center, just above center at the moment. I'm sitting just behind that hill, controlling this camera all the way from there. Isn't it the most amazing thing? The fact that we can remotely control cameras live and stream it to you live, the fact that we can in an instant take you 3,500 miles south to my friend Tristan who's scouring Djuma, and then bring you back and send you to the other side of this river with James, Taylor, who's hiding away from the storm at the moment, James, who's, I don't know what James is doing at the moment, busy, no doubt, he always is. I haven't seen that carcass come down here now, which means that it's probably got snagged on something, which is not too bad because that's exactly how the crocodiles in this area eat. Oh, Kathy, you've asked me a question here that I have no answer to at the moment. You've asked me what the average rainfall is for the season here. Kathy, it is my fault entirely. I actually should know this answer. Any guide worth their salt would be able to tell you what the average rainfall is for this month, probably for this week, what the average rainfall is for the year. But to be honest with you, Kathy, I actually don't know. I'm going to have to get back to you on that one, and hopefully I can find it relatively easily. Normally these things are quite easily come by on over the internet, and I'll see if I can find it. Otherwise, I'll email one of my friends in the conservation department here in Mara and see if he can tell me. All right, I am going to go and look for that, Kathy, and very red-faced at the moment and hanging my head in shame, I'm going to be sending you over to Taylor, who's sitting with some lions.
Hello everybody, we've been bumbling about quite a bit trying to avoid the storms. My name is Taylor and on camera with me today is Craig, and well, better late than never is what I was wanting to say. But yes, we do have some lions, but I'm not sure exactly who we've got. It's one of the male lions, young male lions, that's been collared, so maybe you can all help me out here. I haven't seen him before. So if you do know exactly which male lion it is and which pride that he belongs to, or if they look old enough to have dispersed now, or which pride he came from, or what this coalition is called. Actually, I might have it in my book. Let me have a quick look. But they're fairly young, and they've been mating with one of these lionesses. You can see, I don't know if you'll be able to see, she's just laying right in front of some cars. She got up and moved there, so she's quite comfortable to move around the vehicles, not bothered at all. But I'm trying to think, we came past here this morning and I can't remember seeing them at all. I didn't even see any vehicles gathering. We actually drove around here quite a bit because we're near the jackal den. So maybe they've come out from a thicket somewhere, or perhaps they were laying down in a lugger just out of sight where we couldn't see them, which is of course a possibility. So I'm now looking in my book to see if I can find which lion has a collar, but I don't seem to have made a note about that. But I have heard James briefly once talking about lion, but I've forgotten exactly who it is. So you can hashtag Safari Live if you have any of that information for me, and then Chantal will let me know what you all have to say. But they don't seem to be moving around too much. They seem to be fairly quiet, just relaxing. We are trying to avoid the storms, and now I see that we've got rain on either side of us, which is no good. But hopefully the wind continues to blow and blows it away from us. Paula, you say that's how you feel, lazy and not wanting to move? I suppose that's how I feel on most Sundays. Not today, though. I don't even know what is the day today? It's Friday. So, yes, we'll take it easy. I suspect we're going to get caught in a thunderstorm at some point again. So we might have to drop the rain covers, but that's okay. That's no problem. We've well oiled now. We've practiced on how to get those covers down as quick as possible. But there's the lioness. And she actually initiated the mating this time. Now, often we see with lions, the males going up to the girls and sort of hounding them, whereas with leopards, it's typically the opposite. The females are normally the ones that are quite frisky. But she walked over to that young man, sort of nudged heads with one of them, not the one with the collar, the one without the collar. And then she sat down and presented herself to him, and, well, he was quite happy to do the deed. Now, it's hard to try and keep track of all these lions, so I'm also going to mark this in my notebook. All of you know that I have a trusty notebook where I've been marking the various lionesses and prides and males and all this type of thing, so they need to go down in the list too. But I can't really give a key for them because I don't know who they are just yet. Chantal, has anybody said anything just yet? Right, where are we? Near Hippo Pools. Just a little bit further away from Hippo Pools. Must be about there. We will do triangles for these guys. We'll do triangles for the boys, and then I think we'll do, what other shape can we do? We'll do a round circle, not coloured in. Yes. Well, so we're close to Paradise Plains, not far from here. It's just on the other side of the river. I'm just trying to think who this could be. Maybe it's a lion. I don't know. Actually, I'm not even going to try because I have absolutely no idea who it could be. But I suspect that the only time that these cats will move is either in a couple of hours or so, because they look quite comfortable here, or unless the rain gets them, then they may just sort of shift under some of these shepherd's trees just to try and get a bit of shelter. It's most unpleasant getting caught in a rainstorm out here, especially with the wind at the moment. Now, Now, Debbie, you're wondering if there are any predators that follow the migration. Well, we know in the Sabi sand that, for instance, the lions just follow the big herds of buffalo around during the dry season. Out here, I think that they don't really have to. I don't know if the hyenas would maybe chase after them. It wouldn't surprise me if the odd lion would. You know who would probably follow the wildebeest and zebra around is maybe these nomadic lions that don't really have a home. There's no reason for them to hang around in one spot unless they're potentially trying to take over a specific territory. But as young boys like this, I don't think they're going to take on a territory anytime soon. They've still got a bit of growing to do. There's some monster males in this area that would send them running with their tail between their legs, so they have to be careful. So perhaps it would be a good idea if they actually just moved around with the herds. Like I said, there's nothing really holding them to one spot, especially for the next couple of years. You see this lioness is up again. Now, I have seen 2 lionesses in this area before. They came from hippo pools and they came around this way. It was quite interesting. We followed them for most of the night. They attempted to hunt wildebeest. They attempted to hunt quite a few different things, but were unsuccessful. We then lost them and then moved into a non-off-roading area. So I wonder if it wasn't one of those lionesses. Let's see what she's going to go and do. She looks very excited again. Look at the swishing of the tail. Looks like she keeps sort of lowering her. There we go. I think she might mate again. She doesn't seem to be too interested in the boy with a collar. Now, oh no, he's got a collar on. Do they both have collars on? I can't remember seeing a collar on the other one. Let's just have a look. She's very excited. She looks like she's also got an injury on her front right leg. When she turns around, looks like there's a bit of a hole. See there? Bit of growling going on too. You're very excited, aren't you, lovely girl? I'm just trying to see here. Look, looks like her mammary gland's a little bit swollen. Or did I imagine that? Maybe she's just got a bit of a belly. I wonder. Well, hopefully she'll roll over and we can have a look. Sometimes what lionesses will do is if they do have young cubs around, they almost come into false estrus again, just to keep the young boys in the area happy. I have heard lots of rumblings about young males coming through the area and killing lion cubs at the moment, actually not too far from here. So I wonder if this is okay. Hang on, let's just check. No, I can't see any suckle mark. Oh, no. No, they look like they may have been. Not too recently, though. Tough one. Okay, we'll stick with these lines for a little bit longer. We might have to drop rain covers, which will mean we'll have to move away. I'm going to send you back across to Tristan. He was doing a bit of walking around. I wonder what tracks he found.
Well, we have a mystery on our hands, Taylor McCurdy, and one that I'm not 100% sure, but you can see a very definite drag across the road, which is on top of all the tracks from this morning, except for my track where I went over it by mistake. And from the tracks that I can see, it is really quite tough, but there is definite little footprints there on either side of the track. Now, those little footprints, at first I thought it was a really small leopard, but I've had a closer look, and to me they look like a honey badger. So I wonder if maybe a honey badger hasn't gotten something and has dragged it into the bush here. So I want to try and see if I can follow where this goes. Unfortunately, I can't walk on foot because there is those that must not be named in the area, so got to try and kind of follow this with the vehicle as best I can. But super intriguing. Whatever it is it's dragging something rather large, so I want to try and find out what exactly this animal is doing and what it's got on it at the moment, because it'll be super interesting. Imagine if it is a honey badger with a kill. How epic would that be? That would be amazing. So I'm going to try and I walked a little bit and then bumped into some things, so I'm going to try and just avoid them as much as possible. But the last track I had was going in this section here, so it was going into this little thicket. So I'm going to just try and have a little look around. There's a drainage that goes down. There was also alarm calls coming from this section this morning. So Seb, if you see anything there, you see it gets dragged off in that direction. Now what is this? I wonder where and what this actually is. It's going to be super interesting to try and find out what we've got here. There we go, we're through now. Phil, you think a snake. Now Phil, Unfortunately, it's not a snake, not by the movement, and the width of that track is massive. I would say it's probably about the width of my forearm. That's how wide that track is. So it almost looks, when I first saw it, I immediately thought leopard with a kill. That's what I thought when I first saw that track going over the road. But it's not a snake, that's for sure. A snake wouldn't, unless it's a python that is 5-6 meters long. I highly doubt it. Also, the way that it's moving, it's got paws on either side, so it's something that is carrying, and I've seen honey badgers carrying all kinds of animals. You'll be surprised what these little guys can drag around. They can drag things like porcupines, they can drag all kinds of things. So there is the last drag that I've got, and it goes straight into this thicket, and then there's an impala right here. Paula, you want to know what honey badgers eat? Well, they're fairly omnivorous. They eat all kinds of different things. So they'll eat meat, and I've seen them, like I say, dragging porcupines, young impalas, steenbok, duiker. Then they'll also go after termites and insects, but nothing here. Seb, I can't see anything coming this way. So they have quite a varied diet, and they will utilize any opportunity they can. It looks like it goes into this thicket. Also, what kind of flashed across my mind at one point was pangolin, but pangolin has a very different foot structure to what we saw there. This has almost got a similar foot. It looks just like a honey badger track. It's difficult to say though, because it's kind of in the tire prints, and so I can't really see nicely, but the last track that I've got is definitely going into this thicket. Maybe, yeah. So Seb says he can see a termite mound, so let's go around. Just look in all this undergrowth, Seb. Maybe we see something here. Whatever it is, it's intriguing, that's for sure. One of those mysteries of the bush. So Steph wants to know if we saw blood near the tracks. No, so there was no blood, which means the other point that I was going to say is that sometimes badgers will actually carry their young. So I have seen them carrying their young, and sometimes the young leaves a mark, but there's definite sort of stripe patterns in there that almost looks like a drag of little hooves, but difficult to say. I might just have gotten very excited and not actually look properly, so I'll go back to the track that I can see and just have a double check. But there's this termite mound here, nothing coming out on the road on the other side that I could see. So whatever it is it's inside this thicket by the looks of things. And it's not a crocodile. No, there it comes out. You see, it's come out on this side here. So it's not exactly the easiest thing to do to track this with a vehicle, but we'll try our best. Now, I'm just having a look here. There's some nice soft sand here, so I want to jump off on foot and have a better look and just see if I can't get a better footprint that I can identify exactly what it is. There's a few birds that are making a little bit of noise in front of me, so while I go and investigate that, I believe Taylor has found something that would also drag varying carcasses around.
Rightio, so our wonderful Askari, he's actually the head Askari in this area. His name is Joseph. He's given us some information on these lions. He seems to think that they are the Mugoro pride. Now, I have Mugoro pride written in my book, but I haven't got any information next to them, so I don't know how often we've actually seen these lions. And Joseph also seems to think that there are more within this pride. So I'm not really sure of the dynamics. Now that I have a name of the pride, that actually helps me a huge amount, and maybe you can even help me a bit more. I don't have much of an internet connection. I was actually going to try and see if there was perhaps a Facebook page or if there was any stories about them. So if any of you can do me a favor, you know how I appreciate your help all the time. Perhaps you can put Mugoro, I think it's Mugoro, and maybe we can all learn together and find out a little bit more information about this. Firstly, the most important things we want to know is how many lions are actually in this pride. Are these young males the coalition members of the pride, or what is the story here? obviously I don't think that they would be mating with this lioness if they were originally from the Mugoro Pride. I would assume that they've just sort of come through here. They have to be careful though, because we really aren't far from the area that Scar and the rest of the musketeers like to hang around in. I mean, we know how far lions can move in one night, and they'd be able to travel the distance from when I last saw Scar to where they are now, probably in about 20 minutes or so. At a good pace. She's very keen. So also, I must admit I made a bit of a mistake. I had a look at my picture. When we first got here, she mated with the male with the collar. Now she's showing interest in this male that doesn't have the collar on it. See, he's the one on the left of the collar is not happy about that. Here he's snarling. I wonder if this is not the first time that these boys are perhaps mating with females. They're not particularly big. Now, Susan, there we go. Fantastic question. You said, I'll answer it now. Sorry, Susan, I just wanted to let you hear those sounds. So, she's a funny girl. Basically, your question was, aren't these males too young to be mating with a female? Well, this is my concern here. Did you see how she's mating with both of them? Obviously, you've only seen her mate with one of them. Now you have to just take my word that she also mated with the other male, and she acted flirtatious just in the same manner as what she did now. Now, if they were fully grown males, there would have been a big argument between the two. We know that when lions form coalitions as they get older, they're constantly fighting for dominance. So we would see it often with Mfumo and Tinyo. Let's use them for example, where the two of them were seen together. They were often seen fighting with one another for the lionesses. So one week, one might be more dominant. The next week, he'd be exhausted from mating, not really feeding. He would have lost condition. And then the other male would have become dominant and started mating with the females. So I don't know if she's just doing this to keep these boys happy. Maybe she's got some very young cubs in the area. There's one mammary gland there that looks like it does have a suckle mark on it, but I'm not sure. There was also another lioness that has lost cubs. Can we have a look at that injury? She's licking it now, just on her front leg. John, you were wondering if those males would fight. Well, theoretically, they actually would. But I think because they're so young at the moment, they don't quite know what they're doing. They haven't even established dominance amongst each other. That's quite a deep hole that she's got in her leg there. And that could be caused from a number of different things. That could be a bite. That could be from a wildebeest horn or buffalo horn, even a topee, Oh, right, you could even say a Thompson's gazelle horn could pierce and injure a lioness like that. She seems fine though. She doesn't seem to be limping on it at all, so it obviously is not bothering her. She'll just constantly lick it and keep it clean though, and it will heal, I'm sure, quite easily. So again, has anybody managed to find any information on these two males? Because I know if they're collared males, I'm sure there'll be something about them out on the web somewhere. There has to be. I'll like I said, unfortunately, I don't have any internet. Otherwise, I would have searched them straight away. So it seems as though we're all a bit stumped on this, but that's okay. We're here to learn. We're here to discover the prides and learn a bit more. So I've added them to my book and I've plotted them down, and I can now add Mugoro Pride, which is really good. So that was actually very helpful indeed. But I don't know if these males are maybe a part of it. I reckon that it's the lioness that's part of that pride. Maybe they're more. So she wouldn't really be mating with males from the same pride, because the dominant males in the area wouldn't tolerate them, and it would have actually chased them away a while ago. Let's just see what's happening. There's quite a few cars just coming around to get a better spot. Obviously, they keep moving about, and we actually got a good spot. I'm glad we came around the other cars and just parked off for the side, because it was quite cramped back where they were, and there was termite mounds and bits of shrubs we couldn't really see. We'll sit here for a little bit longer, but there's a flock of vehicles coming in to view these cats, and I actually have to head off maybe in the next couple of minutes, so we'll spend a bit more time. Maybe we see her mate again. I have to go and wipe one of the lenses for the river cam to keep it nice and clean, just in case anything exciting happens at the cul-de-sac before the rain hits again, because the rain has actually just passed over that area, so it will give us a gap to go, which is fine, and then it will give these cars a nice chance to view, and and we can always come back here. Remember, we're so lucky we can stay out after dark, and everybody's got to be back at their camps. I think it's in the next hour and a bit or so. And that actually suits us perfectly, because then we can come and view these animals completely on our own. And I always try to do that, is to give everybody a chance. And they are sitting in a little bit of an awkward spot. I don't think the mating session is going to be over just yet. I suspect she's going to mate a little bit more. So let me take this opportunity to quickly race towards the camera, the river cam, give it a clean, and I'm going to send you across to Steph, who's staring out onto the big white plains.
Hello everybody, I am staring out onto the big wide plains, and I must be honest with you, that's my view at the moment. It's pouring down here where we are, and you can see the rain running off of the roof above my office at the moment, the lovely view that it is. And you can see the patchwork of clouds and storms that are over the Mara at the moment. And there in the distance on the far right hand side, you can actually see where the sun is coming through. And close to that is main south camera, and if we go down to main south camera, I'll be able to show you where the rain is falling. There in the distance you'll notice a fuzzy patch, and that fuzzy patch is the rainstorm that we're in at the moment, and the sunlight is streaming down sort of out of these patches of clouds. Isn't it just beautiful? Now the Mara, the Masai Mara, gets its name from the fact that it is patchy and scattered. A lot of people think it's about the clouds that come over, and you know, you can see these huge dots of cloud and sunshine and storms. Other people think it's the patches of forest and thicket. I'm indifferent. I like to think it's probably both of those, because from high up on the plateau here, you look down on the patches of forest. Equally, you can see the patches of sunlight, and it's just really fantastic. Not much is happening at these cameras today. I've been manning these cameras since very early this morning, and I haven't so much as seen a zebra come down to drink today. Not a buffalo. There are a few hippo, but the hippo even have gone basically not into hiding, but basically they've decided to go to the quieter pools. Now if we go to main north, please, Chantal, there's another carcass that's coming down the river. It's crazy. The carcass is just disappearing there on the far right hand side. Let me see if I can zoom in there. There's a vehicle in the distance, old Land Rover. Governor's Balloon Safaris own probably the largest collection of Land Rovers out here, and they drive around with some of the oldest Land Rovers I've ever seen, all in tip-top condition, something that we aspire to with our cars. Now you can see that wildebeest is and has been lying under the water, it seems, for ages, and those rents in its skin are probably from crocodile. Now, Jimmy, you wanted to know how the quality of the water would be affected by all these rotting carcasses, and especially when the river drops down lower and in the quieter parts of this river. Good question. I mean, I think it is going to have a negative impact on the river. I think as long as the river flows, I don't think it's going to be too bad. I mean, will it be safe for human consumption? No. Will it be good for everything in the river? I think in manageable quantities, yeah. This river flows from here south, and then from south it flows back in a westerly direction and eventually enters Lake Victoria. And I mean, Lake Victoria is huge. It's 40 meters deep. As an average, it's 80 meters deep at its deepest, so it can handle a lot of these. There's a hippo busy inspecting that carcass. It can handle a lot of these carcasses coming down, and it's also not all year round. It's just now during the season, during this flooding season. And although lots of wildebeest die, and I'm talking about thousands of wildebeest drown in this river every single year, I don't think that it would be too bad for this river. In actual fact, I think the tiny crocodiles and fish that live downstream that don't partake in the migration would be very thankful for these carcasses coming down. There was a bottle in, no matter where in the world you are, there's always that plastic bottle. I hate them, to be quite honest with you. We've just lost Cameron. Wendy, you want to know about the baby hippo. So what we're going to do is we're going to be going to a very spotty cul-de-sac crossing. If I could ask Chantal to move us over there. So excuse the spottiness on it. It's because it's been pouring with rain and the mud has splashed onto the lens of cul-de-sac crossing. And that is why the dark patches move with the lens. They're not clouds. They're just mud splashes. I saw that baby hippo right here 10 minutes ago, and I'm hoping that this hippo is mom with baby. It looks like a male hippo though. Won't I be embarrassed if a baby sticks its head out there now? But I did see mom and baby here just a couple of seconds ago, and baby was still swimming very strongly. Let's see if we can find mom. Now, hippo, they don't. I mean, obviously, hippo are very comfortable in the water, but they don't enjoy fast-flowing water. And so, the best places to look for hippo are in these little eddies where the river is not flowing that strong. Well, that being said, there's a hippo right in the middle of the current out there. And let's see. But I doubt that mom will be in the strongest place in this river. There's some crocodiles with a giant crocodile in the background, one of those green monsters. I always thought that there was just one of these green monsters in this pool, but in actual fact there are a number of them. And I mean, even though that crocodile is at least 30 or 40 yards away from this one in the foreground, look how it dwarfs it. Absolute brontosaurus of a crocodile. I love these big crocodiles. Over the years to come, I'm going to really enjoy with all of you out there learning how to distinguish between one crocodile and another. And just like we do with leopard and just like we do with lion, all these crocodiles have distinguishing features, especially the old ones. These crocodiles have been living here for decades and decades, and they would have seen many trials and tribulations, and they all will have a story to tell. And that story will be on their skin and the scars, the yellow-billed stork. Skin on the scars all over their bodies, and over time, I'm sure we're going to be building up quite a nice picture. Another yellow-billed stork. A lot of yellow-billed storks. See how much the water's come up. No, I don't see any more hippos over here. I've been looking. Maybe mom decided that this wasn't such a good place. It's too deep for baby here. And so she's moved on to another place. There's only 2 hippo here. And sometimes there can be up to like 20 or 30 hippo. There's some hippo in the background there. That's going under the water. Let's see if baby's in here. Come on, stick your head up, little one. I just saw them 15 minutes ago. They're here somewhere. Take care. You've asked an interesting question. Does this river ever stop flowing during the year? Under normal circumstances, take care. No, the river does not stop flowing. In January this year, the river was at its lowest that the warden of this park, which has been here for a very long time, has ever seen it. In actual fact, it's the lowest the river's been in his records. Although in the same breath he told me that the old Maasai in this area will tell stories of this river drying up to a series of pools. So it's absolutely possible that this river will dry up. Any river can dry up, not just, it's not just small rivers in ultra dry places. Any river can dry up. And I'm sure that in the course of the centuries that this river has been flowing and cutting its way through this landscape, that it would have had times of flooding all the way from the mountains you see in the distance in that shot all the way to the ridges where the ridge pride live. Equally, it would have dried up to probably a drop at times as well. And yeah, I don't think... All right. Another marvel that we're going to be doing now is sending you 3,500 miles south to the Kruger National Park and Tristan.
Well, we're just crashing through the bush because we've managed to find this carcass, and I'm trying to find a way through here. The carcass is very interesting because it's a white-tailed mongoose that is the carcass that we found, and the tracks for me are definitely a honey badger, which is really interesting. There's no honey badger itself that we could see, so I brought Seb with me to have a look. Seb, do you reckon we can get down there?
Yeah.
That's going to be tight, but let's try. So it looks like a honey badger that's dragged this white-tailed mongoose. It's been dead definitely for more than a day though. Okay, let's see if we can get down here, because it is very steep down here. So we're going to have to try and see if we can just go slowly. There we go. Now getting out is going to be a whole nother story. Doesn't sound like Rusty's all that well either. By the sounds of it, its fan belt is not doing very well, but we'll try to fix that just now. But it's really, really weird because there's this drag mark, and it's definitely, like I say, for the white-tailed mongoose that's being dragged. But then strewn all over the place is a bunch of feathers as well that look like from possibly a barn owl or a spotted eagle owl. You can see them all on my right hand side here, so there's a whole bunch of feathers all spread out. And initially I thought maybe this is where the carcass was, and maybe that it was a bird that had been dragged. But then I went back and looked at the tracks, and there was definite sort of foot drag marks, or as though like hooves or feet had been dragged. And then we followed the drag mark further and we found the dead white-tailed mongoose. But there you can see the feathers. They look like a barn owl feather to me. I might be wrong, but it's got that cream coloration, which is what you would see on a barn owl. And the size of the feather and the width of the feather tends to sort of show that it's one of those. So if we have a look in the book, I'll be able to show you why I say it's that bird. And if you look at the barn owl here, you see it's got these slight sort of orange and grey tinges to it. So I'm pretty sure that's what was caught here. I wonder if maybe this is just a stash point for whatever this is, that it's eating different things. The thing is that these feathers are spread all over the place, so it would indicate maybe that this bird was eaten in the big jackalberry above me. But let's try get up towards where that dead mongoose is. So the plot thickens. It's a really complete mystery to me. It would be the first time that I've ever So James, you say you love a good bush mystery. Well, James, this is about as good as it gets. This is a first for me to see a white-tailed mongoose that is dead, to be honest. So that has been dragged as far as this one has been dragged. That's not a leopard. So if it is a honey badger, it is the most ridiculous thing that I've ever seen. And if we don't get any luck now, because there's nothing here, like I say, I walked right up to it and we managed to find it. But if there's nothing here now, it might be worth coming back tonight. So there's the dead white-tailed mongoose lying on the ground over there, and it doesn't look as though too much has been eaten of it. You can see there's quite a number of flies all over it, but definitely a white-tailed mongoose, that's for sure. And it's the tracks that we had were not for a white-tailed mongoose. The tracks that we had looked honey badgerish to me, and Seb seems to agree. We went and had a look together. I'm going to try and find a track book so I can show you why I say it is a honey badger carcass. There's also bite marks around the head and face, and a little bit of feeding towards the tail end. Not much, but a little bit has been eaten out between the back legs there, and you can see those feet are quite pointy, so it's an indication of a animal that was dragged along. In the track that we saw, I said looked a bit hoof-like, and so those pointy toes might have left a very similar sign. Now I'm just trying to find James, you want to know, other than tracks, is there any other way to determine if this was fed on and killed by a honey badger? James, to be honest, no, I don't think so. Well, not in my experience anyway. That it to me, when I first saw the drag mark, thought leopard straight away, and then only when I saw the tracks did I say honey badger. But in terms of their feeding behavior, I'm not sure if maybe Steph knows a little bit more, but I haven't had too much experience with honey badgers. You know, they occur everywhere where we work, but so seldom seen that it's difficult to actually draw any sort of conclusions about them and to know their feeding behavior. We just don't get to see them feeding as much as I would like to be able to say what they are and exactly what the sort of feeding structure is. We know that with cats, they like to feed from the back between the legs and then forward towards the head, but with a honey badger, you know, when I've seen them eating tortoises, they just crunch and go crazy with it. Right, now while I sit here for a little bit and try and figure out what's going on and find my track for my honey badger, because I've got it somewhere in my books here, but I've just got to dig through the big pile of books that I have and see if I can find it, so I can show you why I'm saying honey badger and not white-tailed mongoose. But while I do that, I believe James is also out and about, and he too has some tawny predators that he would like to show all of you.
Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is where you happen to be and whatever part of the world you happen to be. Sorry for the tardiness of our appearance on this drive. We got caught in a bit of a storm, so we had to put our little tenty down, but now we're back up. My name is James Henry. On camera today is David, that is his thumb, and in the back helping us with security is James, not me. Good. Now we've got a lioness over here. She's heading towards some buffalo. I think it's highly unlikely that she's going to hunt them, but we'll have a look anyway. And let's just stand by. I'm going to tell Chantel, who's directing, to stand by for a Facebook Live. Let's just see what she does here. There she is. You can talk to us, hashtag Safari Live, send us questions if you like, comments. We'd love to hear from you, and of course you can use the YouTube chat stream as well. Chantal, will you confirm that you're ready for a Facebook Live if we need to go there? Alright, I think it's a bit of a false alarm. I didn't really think she was going to hunt those buffalo, but you know, you never know out here. Now, we're not going to sit with this lion for long. Reports of the two cheetah sisters abound in the area. The Bush Telegraph is clogged with reports of their presence somewhere around here, and so what we want to do is go and find them, because I want to spend some time with some cheetah. She, interestingly, has been moving away from a male, and I think we're around the 6 Bilashaka nomad males. They're in and amongst the trees in this little copse to our left, and then another copse off to the far left, where there are lots of other people enjoying the lions. And so I think that she is probably being slightly harassed by them, and that harassment, of course, is because there are new males in the area, and so she'll be coming into what is probably known, or what is known as an estrus, which is not a genuine estrus cycle. And so she'll be kind of stopping them from being vicious and nasty by coming into a sort of false estrus period where she'll mate with them but not necessarily conceive. It is a lovely afternoon out here, if slightly blustery. And I must say, I keep saying this, but the weather here is feels so coastal because of the amount of wind and storm we have. There we go. She's a very lovely lioness. A couple of parrots flying overhead that you can hear. You can probably hear the wind blowing in the various microphones we have. And I'm not sure we're over the storm here, and I believe that Taylor wants to show you her end of the storm now.
James, I cannot believe the rain around here. I didn't believe all of you when you said you could see the rain coming and you could drive around it. That is the downpour number 368 for this afternoon. Now that's going directly towards where those lions were sort of laying. It's still on the base of the escarpment, but it's moving very, very quickly. There's quite a bit of wind that's blowing that cloud. So I reckon if we go back to those lions, we're going to be caught in it. You see where those trees are just to the left? That's where those lions are. So it's not too far away, and I don't think we should risk it. And then there's also rain down on the far left of us. We can maybe have a look down far south. or southwest, sorry. You can see it down there, so we're not going to be going that way. So I think what we might actually have to do, just for the next couple of minutes until it passes, because it's going to be a short shower, we'll go back towards Serena Way, because the rain has now moved out of this area and has blown past us, so we're behind the rain. It's actually quite difficult. We're in between lots and lots of rain at the moment, and then I think we'll come back to those lions. But for now, let's play a game of cat and mouse. Let's try and avoid it. So I'm going to just go back. I'm going to reverse. I haven't got any power steering, I must tell you. It's a funny story, actually, while I reverse. So the hydraulic pump broke. Must have broken last night, or I don't know when, but this morning I was like, why is my steering so stiff? So we found the problem, but it's going to take a couple of days to get fixed. So Byron's Biceps McGee, better watch out, because I'm going to be gymming my guns like you have no idea, trying to turn. So I'm just going to try and drive straight from now on. But I'm going to send you back while I reverse to my very dear friend Tristan in the Sabi sand, and hopefully he's keeping nice and dry.
We are dry biceps McCurdy, and so I'm sure Byron's going to be hitting the gym hard to try and make sure that he's not left behind by you, Taylor. So if you keep on with your hydraulics and Byron keeps on his holiday, we might see a change in crown. But you can see a whole bunch of blue bottle flies that are sitting on the grass above the carcass at the moment. So one's death leads to another one's life. The flies are all here to try and lay their eggs and to try and procreate and to get maggots forming and going. You can see, for those of you who are squeamish, I would look away right now, but there's the flies busy going in at the back. Now, it's really quite interesting because I'm not 100% sure that this carcass has even been fed upon. It's definitely the drag mark. The drag mark goes all the way along to where this is. So this was the animal that was dragged. It was killed and then dragged here, but it hasn't died from eating that bird. But it hasn't been fed on either, so I don't know if something disturbed it and that's why it ran off. Maybe with us walking here, it maybe was lying somewhere close by and was going to feed off it later and it ran away. Also, the way that this carcass was dragged, it was dragged to termite mound, to termite mound, to termite mound, which is very typical of honey badgers. Honey badgers will drag things to mounds and then shove them in and come back and feed off them. So I think 100% that it's a honey badger kill. It's just that the badger seems not to be here, and with us trapsing around, I'm sure it's kind of gotten a bit of a fright and driven off. Also, the road, Twin Dams, is actually not too far from where we are, so our vehicle coming down here earlier might have scared it off and it went trotting away, and it will come back in the darkness of night. The other thing is that this thing smells foul, so if it was killed, I think it was killed maybe yesterday or even the early hours of last night, and then it was dragged here and it's been sitting in the sun the whole day because it has a putrid smell to it already. It's not very pleasant at all. Samantha, you were wondering if it's fresh and if it's smelly. Well, I can tell you it's not fresh, and it is very smelly. It is horrible smell that's coming from it. Not very pleasant at all. So I would think early last night, we have had an incredibly hot day, and because it's right out in the sun, that would indicate that this animal would just kind of rot. And if you put a steak in the sun for the entire day and night, you would be able to smell it just as much as you would smell this. So it's not very pleasant. We're not going to stick around here for too much longer because it really does smell. But I was saying earlier that we know that it's a honey badger track and not a white-tailed mongoose, and I would love to show you the tracks, but all the places that we saw them were inside these thickets, and it's really difficult to show you what's going on. But the white-tailed mongoose track is this track over here, so you can see it's got the 4 toes and then the claws on the front, and then a sort of expanded, quite big lobe on the right side or left side, whichever outside foot it is, that it has that expanded lobe slightly. But it's a very small track. It's only 5 centimeters big, whereas the track that we were seeing is much bigger than that. It's the track of this guy over here, and you can see the difference immediately if you count the number of toes. The honey badger has 5 toes, so there we go. This track had 5 toes, which means that it could only have been a honey badger or a porcupine, and we know that the porcupine, or otters actually, but we know otters and porcupines are not going to be eating white-tailed mongoose as much as what honey badgers were, and it also had that little ghost pad at the back there. So that is our honey badger kill. Well, that's a bit of excitement for the afternoon and a mystery that we needed to solve. Super happy that we managed to track it down, which is awesome. So it would be really cool if we had found the badger here with it. That would have just made my day. But alas, we can't have everything, and it gave us an awesome tracking experience. And it was really cool to share it with Seb, because often we go tracking off the vehicle by ourselves, I don't really go with anyone, so it's so nice to have Seb with me and to kind of talk about it and show one another things, and it's really, really good when our cameramen take an interest and follow us along. Now, I'm going to try and see if I can actually get out of here. Seb, do you think if we go this way we'll get out? This should be quite interesting. Getting in here was one thing, but getting out is going to be a whole nother story altogether. I'm pretty sure at the end of the day that we're going to have to come back the way we've just come. Because I was thinking if maybe we can get into the Mulawati, then we'll be much better off, because we can either go north or south from there. But as it's currently looking now, that's looking less and less likely to be able to happen. So this is going to be one of those moments where you've got to strap on your helmets and strap on all of your protective layers as we try and negotiate through this horrible thicket that we are in. Although it looks nice and pleasant here, doesn't it, Seb? This looks alright for us. We've negotiated worse, haven't we? Although there's a nice big stump as I say that. Alright, Rusty, come on. There we go. Well done, Rusty. There we go. Right, so we are at least in somewhat of a clear area. I'm going to try and see where this leads me to and whether I can get out of this thicket and see if I can't get myself back to a road. And while I do that, let's go across to James Henry, who I think is trying to hide away from a big storm.
Hello everybody, here we are again, same place, well not same place, we've just got some hyenas here, which is very pleasant indeed, but we're trying to find out where these two cheetah sisters are, and I'm just scanning around with my binoculars, because there's quite a lot of vehicle activity just the other side of this area. And I think that if we move across there, we might be lucky. Oh, that's quite fun. This hyena has put this little Thompson's gazelle to flight. There's no way as a hyena, especially not a fat one like that, is ever going to catch a Thompson's gazelle. They are much too fast and much too wily. Just quickly scanning. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's cheetah over there. We're going to move. You can come with us if you like. Let's drive along through here. Lots of hyenas around, and a lot of them running sort of off this area. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hyenas. I think there's a piece of dead something over there. I'm not going to wait to find out. Yeah, there's definitely a gathering the other side there, and I think we need to move across as quickly as we can, because this is cheetah hunting time. There are lots of Tommies around the place, which the cheetahs will want to hunt. Just hold on tight. This can get a little bit hairy. As poor old David learnt last time that he and I were out together, we did some what can only be described as, I think, some fairly hair-raising driving, largely because of my driving, not because of the terrain. I think I overcompensated for the wetness and panicked slightly in the darkness and drove a little bit too enthusiastically, shall we say. Now, there's definitely some cheetah action going on there. I hope they haven't killed already. Let's move it up a little bit. It's still blustery, and I can see the storm. In fact, I'm going to quickly show you, because it's just very beautiful indeed. I think Taylor's underneath that shaft of light coming through the storm over there. Isn't that beautiful? Anyway, we'll just quickly stop and show you that, and now we're going to carry on. Looks like a banking executive driving past us, very unsmiling. I thought banking executives should always be smiling. Alrighty. Let's see what else we can see on the way there. I just don't want to waste too much time, because if they do go on the hunt, it's going to be now. Slip sliding across. Roshni Roshni, you say I'm the fastest driver on Safari Live. Roshni, I'm not sure that that's a compliment, but if it is, thank you. And I dare you to tell Brent Leo Smith that I drive faster than he does. He will be alternatively happy and miserable at the same time, because we all tell him that he drives the fastest, and he doesn't like that. He says, I don't drive any faster than anyone else does. But secretly, he quite likes the fact that our viewers think that he's quite fast driving. So we'll see what he says when you tell him that, Roshni. Lots of Tommies here and there. Lots of gathering of excited people. And remember, all the punters, all the other people here have to go home before 6:30, but we can stay out here. Alright, let's head back across to Taylor. She's under that shaft of heaven's light. Let's find out what it looks like in her golden hair.
I don't know, what does it look like? Knotty. Looks like a bit of a bird's nest at the moment, don't you think? And that's because of the wind. Now, I've got my trusty mobile device. This thing has saved me I don't know how many times. Now, I have to go back to one more thing. So apparently, SRQ Lisa. There we go. Just remembering the name. You gave some information about those lions while we're waiting for the rain to pass. We're just doing the scenic way around. And I'm reading because these names are so long, I don't really know how to pronounce them properly, so I have to read them. And you've said that possibly those young boys are from a pride called the Eneskeria pride. Oh, well, there's a rainbow. You can actually look how beautiful the rainbow is. We can go look for the pot of gold on the airstrip at Serena. That would be nice. Now, I was having a look. Possibly it could be them, I don't know. And then I'm trying to find the other page I had open. I then went onto the interweb and was having a search. So it seems as though that Eneskeria Pride is not in the Mara Triangle. It's in the Conservancies, just on the outside, on the Nabuyisho Conservancy. Now, we know how far lions can travel, so it's quite possible that those boys could have come from that area. That borders just on the Masai Mara National Park. They could have come this way. The other thing, though, is that Joseph was saying is maybe they're sons of the Musketeers from Scar and the rest of the boys. So potentially it could be either. But what I will do is when I get some decent signal, when I go on my actual computer, I don't know why I don't actually type like that all the time. I will actually go and do some research, and I'll jump onto the Panthera page and I'll have a look around because they have been collared, so there has to be research about them. So we'll just try and figure out who exactly they are. But thank you for all of your help. I really appreciate it. But I didn't quite hear what Tristan's got, but it sounds quite exciting nonetheless.
Well, it was quite exciting. We've now since left our stinky white-tailed mongoose kill, and now we're back on our way to try and see if we can't find some large grey pachyderms. So we're just heading along and back to our original route. So we're just going past where it all started. We had to do quite a big detour to get out of our predicament. We had to go all the way along down the Mulawati towards Spaghetti Junction. Joanne, you're wondering if these honey badgers are predominantly nocturnal. Well, yes, they are, Joanne. The peak times that they are active is after the sun sets and before the sun rises again. So they spend most of their time out at night, and they have the coloration for a nocturnal animal. So you'll find a lot of the nocturnal animals will have those blacks, greys and white coloration, because that just helps them blend in the darkness of the night. And so that's why honey badgers are predominantly out at that time. In the winter months, though, in the cooler parts of the country, particularly in the desert areas where it actually gets very cold, you'll find that the honey badger is actually quite active even into the early morning and late afternoon. You'll find them coming out when there's still a bit of sunlight. I have actually seen honey badgers in the middle of summer at 12 o'clock in the afternoon running across the road as well. So it's not an animal that is always out at night, but they do spend a large majority of their time at night. Now, what tracks are these? Deadhead Tom, you want to know if I've ever seen a honey badger going after a snake? No, I haven't. I've seen a honey badger with a snake kill, but I've never actually seen it in the act of trying to tackle said snake and grabbing it. But this kill that I did see was a honey badger with a python that was about 2.5 meters long, which is really quite insane. It killed it on the Sand River, so it was really an amazing thing to see. So they do go after large animals. I have seen a honey badger kill a monitor lizard that was 1.5 meters long, a big monitor lizard. So I mean, that's almost the length of this dashboard, and this honey badger was on top of it. And monitor lizards are seriously powerful animals. It's an amazingly strong animals. I've seen them carrying martial eagles on their back as they go, so they really are built for power. And this honey badger just got on top, and there was this massive wrestle and rolling around and this noise and hissing from the monitor lizard, and this badger got it by the neck here, and with these powerful jaws just crunched down, and the monitor went stiff, and it then dragged this monitor that was double its size away and into the bush. It was the most insane thing to see. So I've been really fortunate with that, and I've seen a honey badger also take a francolin before, which is really odd as well. But other than that, no snakes, unfortunately. I'm dying to see it. I want to see a honey badger going after something like a spitting cobra or a black mamba. That would be quite epic. Roshni, you're wondering why they're called honey badgers. Well, Roshni, it's quite simple actually. They are called honey badgers because they are often around hives, and the reason why they're around hives is honey badgers are very intelligent animals. Everyone doesn't give them as much credit as they deserve because they are very, very clever, and honey badgers will follow honey guides. So when honey guides start calling, they then follow them along until they find the hive, and then they will go raid the hive, and they have a very tough, thick coat that can withstand the pressure or the stings of these bees, and they can actually feed off the carcass when others can't. So it's really quite amazing that they go in, and what they do is they feed, the bees get disturbed, and then the badger will leave a little bit of the honey for the honey guide, and the honey guide can then feed, and that's how that relationship works. Otherwise, they say if the honey badger didn't, or us as people, if we didn't, the honey guide will next time lead you into danger. So the honey guide gets its own back if you don't leave any traces of honey for it. So that's why they called that, and they go after the honey fairly regularly and feed off it quite often. But they, like I say, are omnivorous in that they'll eat all kinds of different things. I was just looking at all the tracks from the lions from last night, because this is where they were last night. Tay, you want to know if honey badgers are aggressive? Well, I had a tracker for a while who was a small, diminutive man, but was as hard as nails and could take on anybody or anything at any time. He was really one of those guys that would stand down anything. I saw him being charged by lions, I've seen him being charged by elephants, and he stood there and kind of just shrugged his shoulders and really didn't bother him at all. But he was absolutely petrified of honey badgers. He reckoned that in his experience a honey badger would target a man's testicles, and that you should not go anywhere near them, and every time he would see tracks for a honey badger he'd walk the other way. He wouldn't go anywhere near them. So they can be quite aggressive and not something that you want to tangle with. Even though they're small and diminutive, they pack a serious punch, and they are not shy to deliver that punch if something threatens them. So they really are quite amazing little creatures, and that's why they've got such a reputation, is because of how tough and how aggressive they can be. I've also seen a honey badger that had no back legs and no tail. It was just the front legs and the spine sticking out as lions were trying to eat it, and it was still biting the lions on the nose and scratching and clawing at them, and eventually it actually chased the lions away and then died from its injuries later. But it just shows you how tough these animals can be, is that they can even fight off when they've only got half a body, which is really quite strange. So they're an incredible animal, and one that you got to give them utmost respect to for their fighting spirit and their dogged determination. I really do wish we saw them more though. They are a little bit elusive. There's lots of them here. If you come out at night or in the mornings and you drive these roads, you'll find honey badger tracks on most of the roads. So there are quite a few of them here, and they're a big problem at some of the camps. But it's just that they are shy, they're reclusive, they spend time out at night, which is when we're not around, so they don't really get used to the vehicles, and they hear the vehicle coming and then they just try and kind of scoot off into the distance and try and kind of get away from us a little bit. So that's why we don't see too much of them. So we're going to try and head towards Treehouse. So Seb was reminding me I'm going to go that way. It's just there's one or two vehicles that are trying to make their way towards the leopard sighting, so I don't want to confuse all of them. So I'm going to just do a little loop around to see if there's any sign of shadow, and while I do that we will hopefully have bought ourselves enough time for our elephants to make their way down towards Treehouse. Hopefully there are elephants at Treehouse, and that would be a good surprise. But while we do that, I believe James is with the spotted beautiful cheetah in the Masai Mara.
Here we have got the two cheetah sisters, everybody, and what we did, of course, was, well, we were very skillful, weren't we, David? We followed the traffic towards this area, and there they are, and I think they might be going on the hunt right soon. That makes me very happy. I don't know why I'm singing. I'm going to look quickly with my binoculars to see if there is a target in the offing. Yes, Thompson's gazelles on the top of the hill. Excellent. Let's see what happens. Right, I'm just going to confirm again, Chantal, that your Facebook Lives are prepared and ready. Okay. Ready and prepared. As soon as they go into stalk mode, I will give the signal. The signal will be the following. Go. That means go live to Facebook. Now, of course, we don't want to get stuck here, which is an imminent possibility. What we're going to do is get in front of them and sort of try and predict where they're going to move. The Thompson's gazelles that I can see are probably almost a kilometre away at the top of this ridge. So I don't think we need to be going live anytime too soon. But I'm just going to get some kind of impression from them as to where they're going. Just need to check how much time the punters have left. They have quite a lot of time left. Okay, we'll park over here. There we go. Beautiful. Two youngsters. If you don't know these cheetah, they are about 18 months old, we think, 18 months to 2 years old. I can see just a few Tommies dotted on the far horizon. You might be able to see them, David, straight over the top of my right shoulder. There are also some elephants, which I think will probably prove slightly too large for these two cheetah. But the Tommies they may have a go at. And I'm pretty sure that those two cheetah will be able to see precisely what I can see, even though I'm using a pair of high quality binoculars. So we'll just keep on following them and see what they do. This is precisely the time you want to be with cheetah, just as the sun is thinking about setting. This is when they get up and move. Unfortunately, it seems to be round about the same time that the rain begins during the dry season here in the Masai Mara. What do I mean by that? Well, as I've said to you before, the long rains supposedly ended sometime in the middle of July. Since the middle of July, it has rained every single afternoon somewhere in the Mara, mostly on top of my head, and definitely on top of our camp. So the rain really has been very difficult to deal with from a film point of view. Just going to have a little rest there until they decide to get up and go hunting. They don't look full to me, so they look like they're going to try and hunt. Whether they will succeed or not, who knows? David, I don't know. I know this is quite early, but you must just let me know when you want to stick the other lens on. Because if they do go on the hunt, of course, you might want it. You might not. I don't know. Wendy, you say it takes skill to guess which direction the cheetahs are going to hunt in. It doesn't really, Wendy. It actually takes very little skill at all if you can see the only thing that they can eat, which I can. And so although, yeah, I mean, you can't predict exactly what's going to happen, in this particular situation I can see 3 or 4 Thompson's gazelles. It's the same ones that I think they can see. And so that's why they're heading in that direction. It's not particularly difficult at this stage, but which one they'll go to and how the hunt will play out. Wendy is absolutely very skillful, and I'm not sure that I'm very good at it just yet, but it's very difficult to predict all the variables that there are. Which way will the prey run? Which way will the cheetah decide to chase? Could there be a rock in the way? Will they change targets halfway through the chase? So, I mean, there are lots of difficult things to assess when you are following a hunt like this. Now, quite interestingly, I'm watching the Tommies while you watch the cheetah. They're looking down this way, and they're looking fairly alarmed. Well, why wouldn't they be? But I just don't believe that they can actually see the cheetah from that distance. In fact, I'm pretty sure they couldn't. Anyway, they're still moving. And they're not moving now towards those Tommies. Well, no, they are. Okay, we're going to move again and get a little bit of distance between us and them. What we don't want to do is be too close behind them if they chase. Ideally, we want to be behind the prey so that we can watch things unfolding in front of us. And I'm going to have to go past this line of cars because it would be very rude of me to drive in front of them. We'll wave politely at everybody as we drive past. Now, Debbie, you're wondering how long I think they will be together. And Debbie, I don't think for very long. I think that they will reach their sort of adolescence, if you like, between 2 and 2.5 years, and once that happens they will then split up. Almost certainly. It's highly unlikely that they will ever be a sort of stable coalition in the same way that males would be a stable coalition. Just drive all the way around these other vehicles. I can still see the cheetah. And what will happen now as this hunt progresses is that the cars will leapfrog each other until they have to go home, and we can stay. Just going to go a little bit further up, and then I want to do something. I want to test the wind and see if they are using the wind in any way. Now, Scotty, you're wondering if the cheetah will still hunt if it starts to rain. The answer is yes, most probably, unless it gets really hard. So if we get caught in a proper storm that is thundering and lightning, then they may well just lie down in the grass. No, I must just keep an eye. They're heading straight into the wind. I am not necessarily a believer that cats use the wind, and I've been trying to sort of do an informal experiment to find out if they do. You can still see the Tommies. They're not quite heading towards them at the moment. They're smelling for bits and pieces. So it won't be purely a hunt. Yeah, they're still just behind that car that's driving past there. They're just beyond that area. There you can see them. Not a care in the world, David. It's Friday evening. It's Tommy celebration day. But for the cheetah, oh, here they come. And this is a perfect place for a cheetah to hunt. No sticks that are going to get in their way. The only thing is that there's not a lot of cover for them. There are the odd sort of tussock of grass that they can get behind, or some termite mounds or that sort of thing. But they will struggle to see what's going on, or they will struggle to sort of stalk in this environment. Jacqueline, you're wondering about whether or not they will change prey during a chase. No, I mean, they will single out a prey species. I don't know. I mean, look, we have seen these two cheetah actually chasing Thompson's gazelles and impala together, so I'm going to take that back. I'm going to say yes, it is possible during a chase that they would change prey. Often not species, but they will often change the individual that they're going for, definitely. Alright, we're going to do another leapfrog. all of these cars. They're all having such fun, these people. You must see them in their vehicles, all smiling and taking pictures and can't believe their luck. They're in the Masai Mara watching cheetahs on the hunt. And we're just going to try and do a proper long leapfrog here. I don't want to get in their way, and I want to try and get as close to those Thompson's gazelles as I can, unless these chaps are heading somewhere else, which they could well be. We'll just keep scanning around for other... There are more Tommies up the top to the right hand side of where I'm sitting now. So let's go quite a bit further, and then we'll turn around and face them front on, and then we can decide which way they're going to go. Ow, ow. Take care. You're asking about cheetahs' ankles. I didn't quite copy what kind of ankle problems you think they might have. Do they suffer from twisted ankles? I'm really not sure, I'm afraid. I imagine that if they step in holes, then yes, they probably could suffer from twisted ankles. Hang on a second, she's using this car as cover, I think. I'm just looking behind us. There are a few Tommies, but they're still a long way away. No, she hasn't singled in on them yet. Now, I know that for some it might be a little disturbing to see quite so many vehicles, but this is how, of course, this great area maintains itself as a conservation spot. It is only through tourism, and the cheetah are so used to cars, they're so used to this sort of stuff. So it's not affecting their behavior at all. Now, I think this is quite interesting. They've turned into the wind, and they may be singling out other Tommies the other side of the wind, which is quite interesting. Alright, we might have to move again. They're now running to join each other. Sorry, Dov. Alright, Tristan is having an absolute corker of a time down in the south. Let's head across to him. He's found Tingana.
We are having an absolutely ridiculous time, James. We've had all kinds of interesting things over the last 24 hours, and this will be our fourth leopard in 24 hours, which is really quite amazing. So you can see the big Tingana, and Seb and I are just kicking ourselves because we drove here 5 minutes ago. Well, actually, we started our game drive here, and I was saying that I heard alarm calls this side, and I had a good feeling on Leopard Alley, and well, there's Tingana right there. So we must have missed him earlier, but at least we've managed to find and catch up with him now, and he's looking around and looking quite hungry, so I think he's possibly trying to go hunting at this time. You can see his tummy is quite sucked in, but if he heads straight south from where he is now, he's going to end up getting a collision course with Hosanna. He's going to go straight to where Hosanna is, and we know that Tingana does sometimes go to Treehouse Dam, so it's going to be interesting to see where he goes from here and whether or not he ends up in Hosanna's area. It is undoubtedly him with the little smiley face on his shoulder and that big dewlap that he has, but he is definitely looking hungry and as though he's trying to find something to eat. So I would imagine he's going to be on the prowl for sure. Look at that dewlap. He is massive. You realize when you see him just how much growing little Hosanna's got to do. Anya, who's 12 years old. Hello, Anya. Welcome, and I hope that you're enjoying this afternoon. You want to know how leopards kill their prey. Well, Anya, what they will do is they will use their camouflage to try and ambush that prey, which means they sit in wait, and they'll hopefully that leopard will come, the animal will come very close to them. Then they'll use very, very, very strong, powerful front legs to explode out of that area and run after their prey animal, and then from there they're going to use their front legs to grab and strong front legs to pull them down, and then they'll use their mouth with their big canines, so those big long teeth, to try and grab the animal by the throat, and that will mean that it will able to then suffocate or to sever the jugular of that particular prey animal. So there he comes, ambling along as only Tingana can do. Now hopefully he doesn't decide to cross down this drainage, because if he does, there's no way for us to be able to keep up with him. Oh, but he's going to stop out in the open. Look at that. Hello, big boy. You are looking very good. Little thin, but still looking massive. And like I say, he's got to have one of the biggest dewlaps out there. Look, he's seen something now. What's interesting is is heading away from Tingana, from Hosana, but what he is heading towards is that drag mark, and he will pick up the scent very quickly. But you see he's salivating as well. I wonder if there's not another leopard here that he's seen, because he's salivating, and when they salivate is normally when they see another leopard. It's not when they see a food item. When they're hunting, they don't worry too much about salivating. It's normally if they're excited by seeing something else. It could also be because he's hot and he's panting, but look how he's trotting off into this bush here. I wonder if we're going to be able to keep up with him, Seb.